again, everyone, and a hearty good Saturday morning to everybody out there. Glad you're with us again. A little earlier than usual here on Gulfstream today. Acacia Courtney and Jason Blewett catching up with you from our paddock studios. A live Saturday edition of Gulfstream today as we get settled in for a baker's dozen.
Big day, 13 races on tap. It's Florida Sire Stakes, the first leg. So today the 2-year-olds will take center stage in the Desert Vixen and the Dr. Fager, but very exciting day as we kick off one of the summer's hottest series here at Gulfstream Park. Really exciting to see how those horses do prove themselves in stakes competition. Lots of good races on tap though, start to finish.
Oh, we've got some huge fields. In fact, prior to scratches, and there are a few on today's card, we had some 129 entries spread throughout the day's 13 races. And just one of these cars that there's a lot going on. If you're smart maybe once or 1.5 times today, you're probably going to go home with a very big and happy bankroll. Now, as far as getting the formalities out of the way, and despite the fact that Ron Nicoletti swept an ice-cold late Friday pick 4.
It was amazing.
He started out slow.
Yes.
He was kind of like, you know, a deep closer yesterday.
Yes.
He was like concern or, yeah, just a plodding type grinder. But in the end, Ronnie put on the afterburners, and it still wasn't good enough.
Still got beat. Congratulations, Mark, Cindy, and Martin. You will be getting your Beat the Expert polos. And, yeah, I mean, we used to call him Cheap Speed Nicoletti, and now he turned into a closer. So he's just one of those. He changed his running style. But definitely very impressive for those 4 races that he did get the wins. Now,
trainer Stanley Gold, we've been building up to today's opening leg of the 2017 Florida Sire Stakes. He knows what it takes to get to the winner's circle with these very rich stakes, $100,000 purses and up. 18 prior Florida Sire Stakes wins to his credit. He's got Awesome Mass, he's got Dunk, and we caught up with him earlier in the week and asked Stanley what he was expecting from Awesome Mass.
I was hoping she could do what she did in the mornings, and when she broke clean and she was in front and he had a snug hold, but she wasn't fighting him, I was pretty optimistic when she turned for home and cut loose. Yeah. Well, it puts a target on our back. Everybody thinks you're the horse to beat, so you know that they're coming to get you. And you just have to hope you have a clean break, and you run your race, and you make the right decisions. And if you have the best horse, you win.
And you have another big horse in with the boys in Dunk as well, another explosive win. Talk a little bit about him.
Yeah, well, he's always shown ability, too. I think I showed him to you early and said that this is the one I like. And he had some bad luck one trip where he reared up out of the gate and had it come on. And he put it all together in the 3rd race. I think it was legitimate. I expect him to run the same sort of race. What happens, again, I guess we've got a target on our back if we're the favorite. And Ralph Nix has got me surrounded with 3 horses, and you got to respect them, leading trainers. So strategy may come into play there, but we're going to run our race. And again, if we've got the best horse and get a clean trip, I expect the same results.
So always nice catching up with trainer Stanley Gold, and he said with both the filly and the colt race, we've got a target on our back with Awesome Mass and Dunk.
He does, and you look at the 2 explosive performances from those 2 horses as we saw in the package there, that they were ultra impressive for each of them. It was their 3rd start. I also talked to Stanley a little bit about Brethren as a sire and how he's kind of been heating up, and he said really he's looking forward to this weekend, but he's even looking forward to the next 2 legs of the Sire Stakes as the distances increase, and he says he's just got a barn full of good stock, and he's really pleased with where they are right now.
All right, a handful of 2-year-old winners over the last few weeks here at Gulfstream Park for trainer Stanley Gold. We'll see if he continues in today's opening legs of the Florida Sire Stakes. They are way down the line on this 13-race program. Again, we'll start out a little after noon today, a little after 12:10 with that first post, and we'll spice things up. Although we begin and the early bird gets the worm, as they say, let's dive into that dollar rolling super high 5, a carryover of a little more than $2,000. Of course, we'll have the opening leg of Saturday's early pick 5 as well. Acacia will have a ticket in there. Moving on in race number 6 this afternoon, the what's it called?
Ever popular middle pick 4.
I love it. So 3 pick 4s on the card, and of course we're all chasing the rainbow. That's the name of the game here at GP, and that carryover has grown quite a bit since yesterday.
It has, just under $40,000, and I expect it to be pretty well bet today. If you maybe like one of Stanley Gold's horses or both of them, or maybe a Ralph Nix runner or someone else in the Sire Stakes, you might be able to find a good single in there. So nice sequence, just under $40,000 again, and we cap things off with the 50-cent pick 5. That does start in race 9 for the late pick 5.
Race 9.
Yes.
Pick 5 begins in race 9. We'll wrap up a little before 7 p.m. I think post time in the program for the nightcap. Race 13 is 6:40 or so. We'll get you out of here as far as the live action again a little before 7 o'clock. But we're looking to build up the bankroll early on this marathon-type day. Of course, it's also Whitney Day way up north at Saratoga Racecourse. And what are we doing in the pick 5?
All right, well, I do have a single. It's all going to hinge on the last leg. Hopefully that we get there. It's an interesting race in the first one because you have the big class dropper in Dancing Wind, and you kind of question, is it maybe a suspicious drop, or is she just going to be so much better? I'm certainly going to use her, and I have her on top, but I'll back myself up with a couple others as we start things off. Big scratch in the second race of a speedster in Weeza Gone Gray, so kind of did change the race shape, but I still think Tiro and Market Strength are the big two in there, so that's who I'll use. Race 3, you have kind of an interesting comparison of new talent with some young, maybe kind of untested 3-year-olds with a few older geldings in there. So an interesting race for sure. That's actually the fourth race I was mentioning with Papa Pig, maybe a little bit more seasoned, and then kind of the newcomer in Noble Venezuela in the fourth. So wanted some coverage in there.
Right.
Then race 5, I will single. That is going to be with Global Entry. I think he's due for a win. I think he's run a couple good races so far. So he'll be my single for $36.
Good, I'm with you with Global Entry. I like him in today's fit, despite the fact his last was a little bit of a step in the wrong direction. I'm hoping it wasn't a real sort of harbinger of things to come, and maybe he's on the downside. But if he shows up, I think he's the best horse in today's 5th race. And let's get there after we talk about the opener today. We've got 3 and up. Fillies and Mares running for claiming prices of $62.50 in a case, and by the way, we're fast and firm, but a case of, I think, trainer Gilberto Zerpa fully admitting that Dancing Wind isn't as sharp as she was earlier in the year, but considering they only took her for $8,000 last October, she's been an awesome claim. They're looking to win and lose her today.
It seems like the for sale sign is out. So that's why I said maybe you can look at it as a little bit suspicious, or maybe it's just, hey, let's put her in a place where we can get her back to the winner's circle and pick up a check, and that seems to be it. Her win against, on sloppy track anyway, but against Starter Allowance Company a couple starts back was actually very, very impressive. She won by more than 6 lengths. I like to see Emisel Jaramillo back up board, and she was just winning up a storm. So you know that she has the ability to win. She has some tactical speed as well. I mentioned the change of race shape earlier on as far as scratches. A big scratch of Pace with Nano's crown to the rail too. So I think you have to kind of use Cowtown Spirit and Playa Zaragoza.
That may very much move up Cowtown Spirit. I know Ron Nicoletti is very interested in her today as she's out for lifetime win number 4, and Sandy Hernandez off the claim for Maddie Racing with Playa Zaragoza. All right, let's move on to race number 2. We will head to the turf today, the first of 5 grass races on this Florida Sire Stakes day at Gulfstream Park. $10,000 3 and up claimers at 7.5 furlongs. A major scratch in this one of the 8 Weeza Gone Gray. He looked like, I know, well, we had some of our, as far as the Gulfstream TV crew and department, we had some of our favorites in today between Weeza, Charlie Mops, Papa Pig, Little Meatball. Some of them are running, some of them are chilling out in their stall right now as we speak. Now, clearly with the scratch of Weeza Gone Gray, you lose A, the favorite, and B, the lone speed, or at least controlling speed. That defection really moves up the 9 Tero, who you and I both have on top, who's probably going to be a clear favorite now off a very good recent race for Steve Classaris.
It was, and we have a stat for the barn over the past 5 years on the turf with horses in the money last time out, mid-level claiming at Gulfstream. So a specific stat, but very strong numbers. 8 for 29 winning, 14 for 29, nearly half of the time in the money, positive ROI as well. I thought that was a big performance last time out behind Fair Prospect, a horse that's, I think, a very strong contender. You can cross off the race off the turf 2 back. It looks like he's in very solid form. Now 3rd off the claim for the barn.
Yeah, the horse that beat him last time that you noted, Fair Prospect, was taking a precipitous drop, was a big 4 to 5 favorite for Michelle Nihei, won and got claimed out of that race. I don't think he encounters a horse as good or as classy as Fair Prospect in this race. I am curious to see what we get out of the 3 Market Strength, who I just didn't fully trust. I've got him a little further down on my super Trifecta. His turf races are okay. I just don't like the fact that it seemed like Midwest and Armando de la Cerda put this one in last time as a complete give-up.
It was. It looked like they said, same thing we were talking about earlier, here's the for sale sign. But not to mention that, he won by 5 lengths on the dirt, and now they're putting him back on the turf. And he has run well on the turf. So I think that he has some ability for sure. His wins was certainly a long time in between drinks. Lots of questions with this one. But the last couple of races for Zukov, I thought, left some questions as well. But do love to see Miguel Vasquez up.
Yeah, as he continues to ride in fine form. And speaking of the riders here at Gulfstream Park, no Tyler Gaffalione on the Saturday card. He won 4 here yesterday, but he is hopped on a plane and he's riding today up at Mountaineer Racetrack in the West Virginia Derby. He'll be aboard Patch for trainer Todd Pletcher.
The one-eyed wonder. We've all been able to cheer him on through the Kentucky Derby Trail and beyond.
Yeah, neat little horse, and best of luck to Tyler and Patch in the West Virginia Derby. On to race number 3, we go locally, a fast main track. 7 furlongs for this 3 and up, $10,000 maiden claiming race, and got a little cute in this one. And maybe in when we're looking back on the third race, I admit the 3 Cottonall might be a little bit of a stretch, but I'm willing to give them in a race where I just ultimately didn't want to take a short price and wasn't completely sold. I really like Grand Venezuelan most recently. 7-2 in that race for Gilberto Zerpa, and lost to a horse who paid $100 in running traps. Whalen Sale going to be over bet because he's just a complete unknown on dry dirt, and he really hasn't been a factor in his 2 races today. And Brave Request just went through the motions last time.
Yeah.
I think this is a good race to maybe look around and try to shake things up with the price, and you've got one potentially lurking as well. But in the case of Cottonall, one more chance today. 5.5, he was just never in a great spot last time out, kind of on a 4-wide chase, and I was encouraged despite the fact that he didn't work out really a great trip in that run-and-gun type sprint. He never quit and kind of stayed on sneakingly well in that race, and I'm going to take him to stretch out and go the 7 and get it done here.
For all the reasons you mentioned, I don't want the morning line favorite and Brave Request. Bet down 50 cents to the dollar. It was an average race at best, I thought, last time. So I just looked down and saw my top selections 12-1 on the morning line, so I like it. But Miguel Vasquez, I think a big rider change in here. They added the blinkers last time, and he finally got on a fast main track. He was outside, and he was very, very wide on the backstretch. So we'll see if he can improve. He will be, I think, a good price for Jose Garofalo, who did have a win just the other day. So I'll take a shot with this one.
Yeah, it seems like Jose's barn has really picked things up with limited starters over the last few weeks here at Gulfstream. 3 wins during the summer meet, and they've only started about a dozen horses. With the third down, we can get on to race number 4, a 7-furlong Florida-bred 3 and up allowance race. This is a good one, and this was not a race changed by scratches. There's a number of major players in the mix, and perhaps in addition or outside of the Florida Sire Stakes today, this is the race I am most looking forward to because of one horse, and that horse is the 5 Noble Venezuela, who came back, and clearly this was kind of a sneaky little, for lack of a better term. They tried to get away with one last time, did trainer Gilberto Zerpa off that 10.5-month layoff. It's a race we're going to show you here, the nightcap back on July 13th. They bet early. This horse was about 8-5, and this horse wound up drifting up to 9-2, and I mean, just ran a hole in the wind. Nobody ever got close to this runner over a sloppy sealed track. Now, somebody must have been watching this horse train, or he looked really good here in the walking ring, because there were a number of claims in on him that day, and Bruno Schickendans and Yvonne Belsor jumped in and grabbed this horse for 12-5, and they clearly bring him back in a race where they protect him. They don't run him back for a claiming tag. I'm just wondering here with Noble Venezuela, is it an all-or-nothing type proposition with him in the 4th?
I had no idea what to do with him. I ended up putting him second, but first, when I was handicapping this race, I didn't use him in my top 4 at all because I didn't trust him. But I went back and I watched both of the races again. And first of all, the race that he does come out of, yes, it was on a wet track, but it did produce 3 next out winners. Lil Fast Boy came back with a 76 Buyer speed figure, so it actually was a productive race. Not to mention Yvonne Belsor has been claiming a lot of horses, and they're running well. And he and Sammy Camacho have been sneakily having a very, very good meet. So I ended up using him a little bit further up. I love that you picked Jaden's Best, because he was another one that I just didn't know what to do with, and he is like the old war horse in this field.
And that's why I picked him, because I just know whether he gets it done or not. He'll be a fair enough price with Franklin Sabalos riding him, the bug boy. He's not going to be overbet with that rider in such a contentious field. And I just know, more or less, he's just going to run because he always shows up with a gritty effort.
He does. Well, I'm hoping it's a really good day for Stanley Gold, not only in the Florida Sire Stakes, but earlier on. I thought really nice performance from Rupp. He seems to be one that did kind of take a little bit of time to put everything together. I was just so impressed physically with how he looked and moved last time. Really improved in my mind.
Yeah, he's a horse who's clearly headed one way, and that way is the right way. And I also think if this is a race where you're kind of under the belief that Noble Venezuela may take out some of the other speeds and might get tired himself, I do think that opens up the door for horses to finish. And I do think the outside pair and Rupp and Jaden's Best fit the bill as they can pick up some serious grinding power beneath them off the far turn. How about a pop to the number 6, Papa Pig? Let's Papa Pig. Gotta mention him, although, and he caught a tough field. That Chepstow, who I had missed going into that July 14th race, what a that horse is a beast. But I do think Papa Pig ultimately rallied on the best part of the racetrack.
Yes, you bring up a fair point there, but to touch on what you were just talking about with the pace scenario, if there's anybody that's going to be running late, it is Papa Pig. Now, I don't know about the 7/8 for him. He does have 2 wins at this distance. I've really liked him, maybe a mile and a 16th, but you can't ignore it. Luca Panici going to be in the saddle.
All right, for Antonio Sano, looking to gear up for a big weekend. Not only does he have some 2-year-olds running today, he brings back his graded stakes winner, Gunnevera, on tomorrow's card in race number 4. 5th race on this Saturday card. We'll turn the page. We've got a field of 7, and this one kind of admittedly took it on the chin as far as scratches went and go. 3 and up in this optional $25,000 claimer, and you lost some speed. You certainly lost the presence of the 2 Charlie Mops, and with the pace a little bit different now, I don't think an altered pace scenario adversely affects the number 4 Global Entry.
That's exactly my thinking. Even with the scratch of Charlie Mops, very, very key speed scratch. Even the scratch on the outside with Racing's My Game, he was a speedster. You do have speed still with Love Conquers and JoJo's Dream, but Global Entry, I think, is versatile and tactical enough that however this race shakes out, he's going to be able to adapt to it. And what I said in my Pick 5 analysis was that he's due for a win. His last couple of races, he's been right there. And unfortunately, last time he ran into DeRoche, who was just a monster in that performance last time out, and even running against Little Baltar and Hammer's Terror prior to that. So he has faced some very tough competition.
That's the thing with him. As I work my way through his recent resume and just the company lines, the likes of Hammer's Terror, Little Baltar, Diaz, even DeRoche, who we got the good DeRoche last time. I just think those turf horses on a consistent basis are at a different level than the crew, especially after scratches that he catches here. Now, that doesn't mean horses like the 5 JoJo's Dream, the Last Out Maiden winner Devise, and even the 7 Love Conquers don't have a chance in this race. But I'm with you. I like the number 4 Global Entry, and hopefully you get there and he cashes you out in that early Pick 5 as your singleton in that turf race. We'll move on to race number 6, and once again, as a friendly reminder, the ever-popular Middle Pick 4 gets underway in the 6th today, a 5.5 furlong main track 2-year-old maiden special weight, solid field of 8. You've got some firsters who look potentially live, and I think a lot of us have been waiting for the number 8 Jalen Hurts to run back. I don't know if you're going to get the 5-1 per se on the line, considering there was some talk of this horse after selling for so much money with that kind of backyard Louisiana pedigree being by Gally Perchoa at that OBS March sale. And his debut on July 15th was a race in which we're going to show you, and basically nothing went right from this horse. In fact, we'll take a couple of different looks, Acacia. The head-on is up first as we have the number 3 highlighted. He'll brush basically the outside of the gate leaving, and then he's cut off. They open up the doors, he hit the inside, and that horse in the green basically sideswiped him a few strides out. The far turn wasn't much better, just had no positioning whatsoever, and the rider aboard his back basically took him out from beneath cover and launches that 4 to 5 wide move. Ultimately, I think this is a debut in hindsight that was very educational, and you would think he probably, from a physical standpoint, got a lot out of it.
I would imagine. And not only did he kind of make an early, very strange, wide move heading into the turn, but then he was pushed out by another horse that was a little bit green as they got into the stretch. I've been waiting for him too because I loved the way this horse looked in the paddock first time out. Just an absolutely beautiful coat, just a really good looking animal, nice muscle definition. So really been waiting for him to come back. And now that he does have experience under his belt and CJ McMahon going to be in the saddle, a nice work at Palm Meadows since that debut race too, which I think is encouraging. One more encouraging thing, we have a stat on Patrick Van Coen. In the past 5 years, 2-year-olds making their second career start. He's 6 for 17 and it's 221 in the ROI. So I'd agree with you. I don't know if you're going to get 5-1, but if you get anything like that, I'm going to be running to the windows.
Yeah, me too, without a doubt. Jalen Hurts with that rider change to CJ McMahon is going to run big in this race. Now, he'll need a good effort. This is not sort of a cakewalk second-time starter that you expect to improve and improve so much that it's just a formality. It's not that case at all because you've got the likes of City Edition on the rail, who's actually had a heavy workload. Geez, this will be his third race in the last 21 days.
Bobby Axe.
Yeah, Duncan Bobby Axe, and even that Highborn who was second last time. He was well met for pinching. He's faced some good runners so far in his 2 races. And, of course, you have Draco, colt by astrology for trainer David Brady, who was well bet and a good second first time out.
Very good second to Phantom Row, who we'll see in the Dr. Fager a little bit later on today for Ralph Nix. And I thought it was a good performance from him. This is, I think, the morning line favorite, and I would say that that's real. I'm going to go with Draco as a Harry Potter fan, but that's a big guess. But really nice looking 2-year-old colt by astrology.
And then we have trainer Michelle Nihei, who blew me up in the pick 5 yesterday. That was a tough photo to lose with Bitacora, but an excellent 5th race. And obviously, Michelle is going good guns these days, 4 for her last 11. And she's got a Stay Thirsty gelding purchased at OBS April for $30,000. And the fact that Edgar Zayas takes the call would lead you to believe that they probably like this horse coming down from Palm Meadows. Now, we'll give you the rundown as far as Platinum Equity is concerned, who breezed a quarter mile at that OBS April sale in 21-4. There were a couple of Stay Thirsties that sold for 6 figures, but this one was the 3rd priciest of a bunch that sold at OBS March. And, of course, both sibs to race out of this dam are dirt winners, so there's some things to like with the 7 Platinum Equity.
And Edgar Zayas was the one that had that huge ride yesterday on Lantis for Michelle Nihei, so they've done very well together. This one looks like, I would say, the first-time starter you might want to keep your eye on.
Yeah, no question about it. A good 6th race on tap today. We are almost to the opening leg of the Rainbow Six. One more to go before we start the pick 6. That is Saturday's 7th race. And you do have strength in numbers here. This is a good-sized field of 12-5, 3-up filly and mare maiden claimers. And again, they're meeting at 7.5 furlongs on the firm Gulfstream Park turf today. One more chance. Somewhat reluctantly, I'll be candid about that and honest, but one more chance for the 9 Channel to win. I thought she ran very well 2 back, and I thought she ran so much better than Classic Act, and loved her in the rematch last time. They bet Classic Act down to like 3-5, and I was like, oh, I'm getting 5-2. And she kind of just went through the motions. Little inconsistent, perhaps, but this seems like a field that she's got, and she'll likely be favored because she's got proven turf form.
She does. So she has to step it up today, and maybe with Acacia off, maybe that's your angle, as you said yesterday. But I did go with one that does have a little bit of proven turf form. Definitely some questions in the 2 Susu's Kitten, who's stretching back out in distance to 2 turns, went 5 furlongs last time, and actually ran okay, and took a lot of money off of the layoff from February to June. That was at Tampa. So shipping into Gulfstream, we'll have to see how the form translates. But I like that they take a drop as far as tag. I've seen that horses maybe shipping in taking a little bit of a drop do tend to fare and fit better. Luca Panici going to be up as well.
Yeah, you get a good post. You get Luca P as well in race number 7, and you'll let us know what the 8 Trip the Queen looks like, who has not been out in some 533 days. You see Mike Maker, and then you see him giving a leg up to CJ McMahon with his Gulfstream go-to rider, Tyler Gaffleone, riding at Mountaineer Park, and you go, oh, man, I want Trip the Queen. I'm willing to take a short price. And then you realize it's been well over a year and a half since this one ran.
That's February of 2016, not 17.
Right.
Yeah.
So you'll let us know how she looks. Great filly by Imperialism coming back for Top Connections. But again, ring rust might be a concern heading into race number 7. There's no ring rust here on the set. In fact, we're just getting warmed up. We've got a Saturday Rainbow 6 to catch, and we'll do so after this quick break.
At ExpressBet, we celebrate the champions that make horse racing great. That's why we provide more ways to bet from more places than ever. We've built an entire family of brands to give players more of the rewards they deserve, give bettors the information they need to win, and provide a community for horse bettors. Because the best way to support the champions of horse racing is to champion horse racing. ExpressBet. We are racing.
Saturday, August 5th, summer's hottest series returns to Gulfstream Park. It's the Florida Sire Stakes and Summer Soiree. Cheer on Florida's thoroughbred stars of tomorrow in this thrilling afternoon of live racing action. First race is 12:45 p.m. and admission and parking are free. Plus, savor an array of international and domestic pairings at the wildly popular wine and cheese tasting. Don't miss out. Get your tickets today. Visit GulfstreamPark.com for details. The Florida Sire Stakes and Summer Soiree series. Welcome to your playground, Gulfstream Park.
This is your playground, and in fact, you can't do any better than Gulfstream Park, no matter what time of the year it is. It's a beautiful Saturday, early August morning here in Hallandale Beach. It is Acacia, Jason, back with you on Gulfstream today, and it took us a while, 7 races in fact, to get up to the opening leg of the Pick 6 on this Baker's Dozen Saturday afternoon. But what are we doing, and how much are we spending?
All right, well, today is about stamina, as Jason said. So I'm going to do $32.40, just shy of $40,000 in that carryover, so do keep an eye on that. This first race, I think, was really, or excuse me, first leg of the sequence was affected by scratches. Daddy Duke and Le Cabellion look like they're going to take a lot of money. I used a couple in here because I just didn't know. Kind of the same goes. I think there are maybe the big 2 with Bill's Passion and More Mia in the 9th race. And then the best horses in the 10th, I think, are actually to the outside. Sassy Slew, unfortunately, with a tough post, but she does have a couple scratches inside of her. I'm going to single Awesome Mass for Stanley Gold in the Desert Vixen. I think she is going to run back like she did last time. I don't know if she'll win by 11 again, but she just looks in absolutely sensational form and is only getting better. I am going to use his other runner, Dunk, and as we see the boys and the Dr. Fager, but I'm also going to use the 2 Ralph Nix runners in Phantom Row and Sutash. So 3 in the Dr. Fager, and then 3 in the Nightcap, as well as we cap things off with a maiden 12-5.
Maiden 12-5 at a good-sized field to end things a little before 7 p.m. And with your trip back to the barn to see Stanley Gold and ultimately Awesome Ass, a filly you're going to key off of and anchor that Rainbow 6 ticket in, you said when it's not game time and she's not over here battling, she's as sweet as pie.
Well, maybe that's one of the bigger reasons, too, is that I just fell in love with her yesterday morning, but she's incredibly sweet. And I've actually found that the couple times I've gone back to the barn, all of Stanley Gold's horses, none of them are kind of skittish. They're all very friendly, very alert, interested in the camera. So I do think, though, that she is a beast on the racetrack, and that's the good thing.
Looking forward to seeing what she can do as an encore off that hugely fast win last time out. But we begin here, opening leg of the Rainbow, with the 2 lifetime 62.50 field of 8. And this claimer at 6.5 furlongs on the dirt, and you start to work your way through, mainly after the scratch of the 5 Little Nappy. And for you and I, we both have Steve Cosaris, who could have an okay day here. He's got a couple live horses. Tiro back in race 2, I believe, and the 7, Daddy Duke, after scratches, probably are both going to find themselves as clear favorites. I worry that he's going the other way, and I think that was your main concern after looking at him last time out.
It was, and maybe the switch to the dirt will help here because he is kind of a big, solid type horse, and I think third off the bench now too will help. Maybe he's gained a little bit more fitness, but perhaps the dirt, maybe he just with that solid form didn't care for the 5 furlongs on the turf. It really is a specialist distance, and he's often run very well. It's just kind of been a long time between drinks. He hasn't won since Gulfstream Park West back in October. Big question here, but I just had to go with the strong connections.
And I tried to split, and again, I think he's going to be a clear favorite over the 2 Le Cabellion. I just didn't like Le Cabellion's last race. There was very little outside of market strength in there, and the fact that this horse was never really in the hunt to finish second, he should have been right there, in my opinion, with Knockout Ranger. So I'm going to try to beat him at a shortish price with the number 10, Tranquil Warrior, who maybe you get an improved effort. You're going to need it here, second off the layoff, with a horse that once upon a time showed a good amount of speed, and with the scratches of both the 5 and 9, the pace is a little different in here.
It certainly is. I was wondering if Dats Artie's boy would show some of his speed that he used used to. I remember last summer even that he was showing a lot more early zip, and he just really hasn't. Tranquil Warrior could. I thought he was maybe a little bit better on turf, but he'll never, as you said earlier, he won't meet an easier field than what he has to deal with here, and I just included Taverny Bay on the drop.
All right, sounds good. Let's move on to race number 9. Late pick 5 begins with a quickie, a 5-furlong sprint on the turf, a $10,000 3-and-up claimer. And again, no shortage of contenders in these 10K claimers on both the turf going long and shortening up to 5 furlongs. This is just a wickedly tough and deep condition. So wickedly tough that you and I landed on, amazingly, the same horse. Yeah, who do we have on top here? The 6 More Mia to start our late pick 5, or my late pick 5, which very much looks like a 2-5-6 in that first leg. And you kind of chuckled when you were talking about the 10th race, saying seemed like really the major, more logical players off paper all landed outside. And as you can see, there aren't too many races I can imagine where I'm covering my bases with the 12, 13, and 14. You get that today in race number 10. I'm going to use Awesome Mass, but I also, and I admit she might just be way too good and way too fast, but I really like Valid Interest last race. I'm going to use her as well. I'm so encouraged, and I know Dunk does not have a walk in the park in the Dr. Fager. The fact that he drew outside and the fact that he can rate and sit off horses, I think is a huge weapon. It's kind of a nice, double-barreled shotgun, if you will, with the post and his kindness and rateability. And after the scratches in the 13th, I looked around. I was like, man, all the wise guy horses scratched out. I'm just going to single Indian Scout, who I thought even before scratch time was the best horse going into that race. So we'll try to wrap it up here. Just a $12 play with a couple of singlethons in races 12 and 13. But getting back to the crew and trainer Ralph Nix, your leading conditioner at the meet, he's got the 6 More Mia, who just seems like a horse that fits perfectly here for 10 Gs.
He really does. He's run at this level the last couple. He actually won for the 10,000 2 starts back ahead of another horse in this field. Ran into the monster Dubai Bob, who after that huge layoff has just really been incredible.
Gorilla,
the story with that horse. Like to see Edgar Zayas up. I think Bill's Passion is another big one in here. First off, the claim for Armando de la Cerda. Really does have to improve off of that last race, but he has some speed. I thought last time he might need a little bit of tightness, maybe a race off the layoff as far as my notes go, so maybe he'll take a step forward.
Oh, and Armando's been so hot, De La Cerda. Big fan of his, and his horses are just running out of their skin and so well. Biggest Little City caps the 3 main contenders. Clearly, Acacia and I, as far as our tri-box, see it the same way as that horse comes in off a victory. I mean, you're really faced with a big field, and at least a handful, if not more, of the contenders in the 9th race today are just so razor sharp, which makes it a fun race. Race number 10, in the meantime, is a 6-furlong main track race. These are 3-and-up filly and mare, $10,000 maiden claimers. And again, you start to work your way from the inside out. Even your top selection, Acacia, originally had post number 8 prior to the scratch of Military Brat. That horse, a great try, will leave from post 7. But as you work your way through the PPs, you ultimately realize all the best horses, at least in this bottom level maiden claimer, are way on the outside.
They are, and I think it's interesting you picked Riverina. She was on the bubble for me. I did end up going with Great Try, who technically won last time out at Tampa, did come out and was bumped down to 7th through disqualification. But I actually thought that this one had a couple of strong races at Tampa, so we'll see how she ships in. Loaded with questions in here, but I really loved Sassy Slew, I think more than any horse in here, but so far outside. She's got speed. It's going to be tough for Edgar Zayas. Scratches will help, but he's got to get her in a good position early on.
Right, she moves in 3 stalls, so post number 11 now for Sassy Slew, and my top selection leaves from post number 9. This should be an interesting early, say, 16 to furlong and a half down the backstretch, because again, they're only going 3/4 of a mile. They don't have a ton of time before they hit the far turn. Antonio Sano's layoff horse was the one that I guessed with, and it's a very tepid nod, but her last race was okay. She's coming in fresh, working up a storm, it seems, relatively speaking, over at Gulfstream Park West, and I think that surface is renowned for being very deep as far as legging up horses.
It's deeper, so you will see slower works over there generally, and then you see somebody like Gunavera go 5/8 and 59 and change, or 58, and then that's where you see the difference in quality.
Yeah, no kidding, and that may bode well that work tab peppered with recent breezes in 59 and maybe even a high 58 for Antonio Sano that'll put Gunnevera in the game in that field of 6 tomorrow in our co-featured 4th race. More on that, of course, as we get closer to Sunday. Got to get through the Stallion Stakes, though. We've got the back-to-back Sire Stakes here, kicking off with the Desert Vixen in race number 11. A field of 8 signed on and looking at a real big favorite for Awesome Mass. Misael Jaramillo rides a filly by Brethren for an 18-time Florida Stakes winning trainer in Stanley Gold. Big even money favorite on that morning line.
It is, and as you said, Stanley Gold, 18 wins in the Florida Sire Stakes.
Which is incredible.
Which is incredible. It really is. He could have 19 and 20 today with Awesome Mass and Dunk, and just there you go. We've been saying it all over the place, but just a reminder that he has the record for wins. I mean, you look back to the likes of Jackson Bend and Awesome Feather and just some really quality horses all throughout the years. Ballet Diva a few years ago. Now, Awesome Mass, I know you wanted to backtrack to her last race because she was incredibly impressive in her 3rd start.
After losing to Rose to Fame, a stakes winner, and then second time out to Florida Fuego, who unfortunately is on the farm with the little R&R. She found the right field, but wasn't a case of her just being a big favorite and having a workmanlike victory. They turn for home, or she turns for home, and it's just a case of how much is she going to win by, and earned one of the fastest, at least as far as the buyer scale goes. She's got one of the faster 2-year-old wins in the country so far of either Colts or fillies, and just devastating there, and we'll see. She's got that big early speed. She's likely not getting away with the cakewalk, though, on the engine due to the presence of the one right on, who's on the fence, who takes that stretch from 5 to 6, and the number 7, Go Astray, is not slow at all.
No, she will, I think, be part of the pace on the outside, and she was an interesting one for me because she's actually faced stakes competition before. She ran against 4th behind Rose to Fame in the Brave Raj, so she has a little bit of class edge there, but I was really intrigued. She is still a maiden technically, but the number 5, Pantyhose, and Ralph Nix has quite a few strong horses. He has 3 in the Dr. Fager and this filly in the Desert Vixen, and I saw her paddock schooling the other day, and I think that that was kind of a big reason that made me use her a little bit higher, that she's put on weight. She seems to have filled out really nicely and was carrying herself really nicely. She's actually the full sister to 225A, who won the Florida Sires Affirmed and Prize, actually a Stanley Gold trainee. So she is bred for this. She is by Awesome, of course, and Edgar's Eye is going to be up.
Yeah, I should have had her in the top 4.
This
the more
is
I
a
look
tough
at her,
race.
it is
It's
a tough race, and of course she has yet to actually win a race as a maiden, but man, her last couple, she caught some respectable fields, and I'm very high, as are you, and I think anybody that watched Florida Fuego win first time out for E5 Racing and David Fox. I wish she was in the race today, but she's not. We'll look for her down the road. I'm going to try to pull off a mild upset here with the number 6, Valid Interest, whose first race wasn't as fast, at least on the buyer scale, as, say, Awesome Mass, but it still came up a 62 fig, which is a good number. I think she actually pulled an outside sort of tracking trip on the deeper part of the racetrack on that July 14th program, in which inside speed was very deadly, and the fact that she was A, bet, and B, struck me as a horse who, as these distances get longer, I don't think she was really a 5/8 horse. It looks like 6 will be in her wheelhouse, and again, with that target on the back of Awesome Mass, she's just going to have to run so hard, it seems, every step of the way.
There's going to be a lot to prove today. That is certainly for sure. You like to see Miguel Vasquez, who rode Go Astray in her last 3 races. He's going to stick with Valid Interest. A nice work tab for this one since that debut race as well. Now, there was quite a bit of moisture in the track, and you bring up a good point about how it was playing. Do you remember that on the 13th, the day before, race is actually taken off the turf, so the track dries out quickly, but there was moisture in the track. It was labeled as good. She has to take a step. I need to see another one from her. That being said, I was very impressed with what she did, and I absolutely respect her. Also very intrigued by the 2 Starship Bonita, who was actually chasing the winner, but the winner, Gabrielle Elizabeth, was just like twice the size of her that day, and she was actually very strong finish. Yes,
yeah, that wasn't
obvious.
a case. It was her just dwarfing Starship Bonita, who ran well and adds yet another at a decent price layer to this Desert Vixen. You might get an Awesome Mass who's just too good, too fast, a la an Awesome Feather, or maybe you get a filly that comes back a little bit and is hooked from the get-go, and that may open up the race to somebody else or a few other horses challenging at the 3/16 pole. Let's move on to the Colts and Geldings, the $100,000 Dr. Fager on the main track today, going 6 furlongs. Lost a 50-1 shot on the line, the number 5 Dr. Chat, and that means we go with a field of 7, and much like Awesome Mass for Arundel Farm and trainer Stanley Gold, they have got the horse to beat in the 7 Dunk. And let's backtrack via our spotlight here on Gulfstream today to this horse's near 9-length victory on July 15th. Now, granted, turning for home, Dunk had already pretty much taken the lead, but he's run well not having the lead, and I think that will prove a feather in his cap, because Acacia, this is the time of the year leading up, the run-up to these Florida Sire Stakes. A lot of these 2-year-olds win just because they're way faster than the competition as far as that early speed.
It is, and especially when you have those 4 furlong races, they blast out of the gate, and there's just no time really to catch up for them for maybe a horse that is out a little bit slower. But he's shown versatility. He debuted in the slop. He lunged at the start. We heard Stanley talking about that a little bit earlier on. His race 2 starts back, actually behind another in this field, Majestic Secret. The 3 we both give a little bit of interest to. But I think the experience, the fact that he broke his maiden at 5.5, it looks like this is a horse that's only going to continue to get better, especially as the distances increase.
Yeah, big fan of the 7 Dunk, single in the late pick 5 for me, but much like his Philly counterpart, he's got his work cut out for him, mainly with trainer Ralph Nix pulling a old D. Wayne Lucas move, putting 3 in this 2-year-old Dr. Fager. Exactly. Stanley Gold kind of said and quipped a little tongue-in-cheek, yeah, Ralph has got me surrounded with Kingston Pike, who is going to have to really step up his game to win. But clearly Ralph is dangerous, that is, with both the 4 Phantom Row and the outside runner in Sutash. Now, Phantom Row is up first, as this horse wasn't off all that alertly, but showed big speed in a very popular and good-looking Gulfstream Park maiden win a little under a month ago.
Took a lot of money and actually did go off as the favorite, and he was a nice gray. And I remember speaking to Ralph and that he actually thought he had a couple others that were a bit more advanced than this one, and yet this horse just blew the field away and was very impressive. You can see kind of his action, his head, his distraction, if you will, trying to lift his head and hollow his back out a little bit, but I thought Edgar Zayas did a good job keeping after him and really getting him nicely to the finish line.
Yeah, good effort out of him, and the race came up solid as far as buyer goes, or rather, excuse me, there was no buyer because it was 4.5 furlongs. I'm thinking of Sutash, who got the 77.
Yes.
He's got a fast win, homebred for Goldmark Farm, and he did everything right first time out, including digging in gamely and turning back Todd Pletcher firster, Pony Up, who ran well.
He did, and he was a big price, probably as a result of the presence of a Todd Pletcher runner, but I thought it was a really nice performance from him. He's by back talk, as he said. The mare was unraced, but she has produced a couple of winning siblings, so I'm interested in him. Quickly do want to mention Majestic Secret. I caught up with Rory Miller as well. This is a cool story, and we'll talk more about it later, but the owners actually ended up purchasing the mare from winnings from the casino. They bred to Cantharos, and here they have Majestic Secret.
It is just a 1 in a million chance, and so cool.
It is.
And if nothing else, that makes Majestic Secret the coolest horse and neatest horse, not only running in the Dr. Fager, maybe running in the country today. And yeah, you caught up with Rory at the barn yesterday. We'll certainly hear what you guys talked about. Good stuff there with Majestic Secret. We'll wrap it up here. Race number 13, a 12.53 and up maiden claimer on the turf at 7.5 furlongs. I will not bore you with the obvious, but again, after Don't Quit, Cold as Ice came out, a few of the others towards the outside. Indian Scout may have just timed it right. I wish I had something really smart and clever to say, but I don't.
I don't either. I mean, on the outside, you have the 12 Sarastro, who's second off the layoff. He's by Awesome again and out of Honey Rider, and really has not run to that breeding at all as of yet. It looks like on the inside, Indian Scout with Emisale Jaramillo is the one to beat.
All right, as we sign off for this Florida Sire Stakes edition of Gulfstream Today, we'll take a little time out on Gulfstream Today, and track announcer Pete Aiello standing by with that opening set of scratches and changes, and we'll see you about 10 minutes before the first. Have a great day here at Gulfstream Park, everybody.